Ladies and gentlemen, before I tell you the habits that can change your life, I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you're the only person responsible for everything you have and everything you don't have. That moment, that realization can either scare you or it can set you free. For me, it set me free. Today, I want to share with you 6 powerful principles, the habits and mindsets that shaped my journey, and they can shape yours too. Let me tell you something that most people will never admit out loud. No one is ever fully ready, not for success, not for opportunity, not for the moment that could change their life. Most people lose before they even begin, not because they lack talent, not because they lack resources, but because they spend their life waiting for the right conditions. They wait for the right timing, the right money, the right confidence, the right support, the right plan. And while they wait, someone else, someone with less talent, fewer resources, fewer connections, takes action. I have seen this over and over again in the US, in China, in every country where entrepreneurship breathes. The winners are not the ones who start perfectly. The winners are the ones who start imperfectly. When I began my first internet project, I had 0 experience. I didn't know how websites worked. I didn't know how coding worked. I didn't know how the internet would change the world. Nobody did. In fact, when I told people I wanted to start an online company, they looked at me like I had lost my mind. Some laughed, some criticized, some avoided me. One person even said, "Jack, you're not ready. The technology is too new. People don't trust the internet. You should wait." Wait for what? Wait until someone else takes the opportunity. Wait until fear becomes stronger than ambition. Wait until regret becomes permanent. No, you don't wait. You start. Starting before you're ready is not recklessness. It's courage. It's understanding that progress is made through movement, not perfection. Think of the greatest companies in the US. Amazon started in a garage with books stacked everywhere. Apple started with 2 young guys who didn't even have money for proper tools. Facebook started in a dorm room, not a company, not a headquarters, a single dorm room. Disney started in a cheap office with mice running around, real mice. If they waited for perfect conditions, you would not know their names today. When you begin, people will doubt you. When you begin, you will doubt yourself. That's normal. Doubt is the first sign that you're stepping into a world bigger than your current one. But let me tell you a secret. Readiness is not something you have. It's something you build. You become ready by starting. You build confidence by moving. You gain clarity by doing. You gain experience by failing. You gain wisdom by trying again. Think of a child learning to walk. If the child waited until they were ready, they would never take a step. They fall, they cry, they stand, and they try again. And eventually, they walk, not because they were ready, but because they began. Adults forget this truth. We become afraid of looking foolish, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of being judged. But here is the twist: people will judge you either way, whether you try or you don't. So you might as well try. Starting before you're ready forces you to learn faster. It forces you to become resourceful. It forces you to innovate. It forces you to grow. And growth, real growth, never happens in comfort. I always tell young people, you cannot discover new oceans if you never lose sight of the shore. And your dream is the ocean. Your fear is the shore. And you cannot hold on to both. So today, I challenge you: launch the business idea. Start the project. Begin the book. Sign up for the class. Record the first video. Apply for the opportunity. Ask the question. Take the step. Even if you're scared, even if you're uncertain, even if you're not ready. Because the world has 2 kinds of people: those who wait and those who begin. One day, you will look back at this moment and realize it wasn't the perfect plan that changed your life. It was the courage to start without one. Let me tell you something extremely simple, but extremely powerful. Success is not a moment. Success is a habit. People love to talk about motivation. People love to talk about inspiration. People love the idea of success, but they don't love the work behind it. And the truth is, the world doesn't reward the person who works hard when others are watching. The world rewards the person who works hard when nobody sees it. Most people don't fail because they aren't smart. Most people don't fail because they aren't talented. Most people fail because they stop too early. I learned this the hard way. In my early days, while my friends were sleeping, I was working. While they were celebrating, I was studying. While they were relaxing, I was improving. Not because I was special, but because I knew I was not special. I had no advantages, no connections, no money, no excuses. When you know you're starting at the bottom, your only weapon is work. Your only strategy is consistency. Your only choice is to outwork everyone around you. In the US, you see this everywhere. The athletes who take the last shot in the NBA aren't the ones who practice casually. They're the ones who shot 500 free throws alone in an empty gym. The musicians who fill stadiums aren't the ones who rely on talent. They're the ones who practiced scales for years when nobody cared. The entrepreneurs who build billion-dollar companies aren't the ones who waited for inspiration. They're the ones who stayed awake while their competitors slept. Let me give you an example. When we were building Alibaba, the team worked day and night. There were times we slept on the office floor. Not because we wanted to look tough. Not because we wanted praise. In fact, there was no praise. Nobody knew who we were. Nobody believed in us. But we believed in effort. People say, "Jack, you're lucky." Yes, I am lucky, but I also worked when others stopped. Luck comes to those who are standing on the field, not those sitting in the stands. Here is something successful people understand. Winners and losers have the same goals. The difference is in their habits. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be fit. Everybody wants to be respected. But wanting means nothing. Work means everything. And let me tell you the most surprising part. The effort you put in when no one is watching becomes the confidence you carry when everyone is watching. When you wake up at 5 a.m. and study, when you practice after others quit, when you do one more rep at the gym, when you write one more page, when you send one more application, you start to build an inner strength, a quiet power, a private momentum. You can't buy that. You can't borrow it. You can't fake it. It comes only from the work. You see, discipline is like a muscle. You don't build it in a day. You build it every day. People always look for shortcuts. They want success without sweat. They want progress without pain. They want rewards without risk. But shortcuts create fragile people. Hard work creates unbreakable people. There's a saying I tell young people all the time. If you cannot work hard for your own dreams, someone will hire you to work hard for theirs. You choose which side you want to be on. And here's the twist. This isn't about working 24 hours a day. This isn't about burning out. This is about doing just a little more than the average person, consistently, every single day. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is simply extra. 1 extra hour, 1 extra attempt, 1 extra skill, 1 extra year of patience. When you outwork people, you don't need to compete, because most people quit long before the finish line. So today, I want you to ask yourself, what do you do when nobody's watching? What do you do when there is no applause? What do you do when success is still far away? Because those moments, those quiet, unseen moments, are exactly the moments that build champions. Most people avoid rejection like it's poison. But let me tell you something you may not want to hear. Rejection is the school where strong people are trained. If you only chase yes, you will live a small life. If you learn to face no, you become unstoppable. Rejection is not the enemy. Rejection is the teacher. When I say this, people always ask me, "Jack, why would anyone want rejection?" Because rejection does something success can never do. It shows you who you really are. Anyone can stay motivated when things go right. Anyone can feel confident when applause is loud. But the moments when you hear no, the moments when the world closes the door on you, that is when your true character is revealed. When I applied for jobs, I didn't just face rejection. I faced every kind of rejection. I applied to 30 companies. They all said no. Some even laughed. KFC hired 23 people. I was the only one not chosen. A police academy told me my body was not fit. Even Harvard rejected me, not once, but 10 times. But I learned something powerful. Rejection cannot stop you unless you let it enter your heart. Most people think rejection means you're not good enough. No, rejection simply means not here, not now. That's all. In the US, many of the greatest entrepreneurs were rejected before changing the world. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Steve Jobs was rejected by his own company. Oprah was told she was not fit for television. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. These people didn't succeed because they avoided rejection. They succeeded because rejection sharpened them. Rejection teaches resilience. Rejection gives you emotional armor. Rejection makes you hungry. Rejection forces you to become better, stronger, smarter. When you run from rejection, you run from growth. Let me tell you a story. In the early days of Alibaba, I visited Silicon Valley to raise money. I pitched investors with passion. I explained our vision. I shared our dreams. And guess what? They rejected us one by one. Some politely, some rudely. Some didn't even let me finish the presentation. I remember walking out of one building, the sun shining, but somehow the world felt dark. My team looked discouraged. One of them said, maybe they're right. Maybe we can't do this. But I told them, no. If the world doubts you, let that doubt become your fuel. Some people think rejection is a sign to stop. But sometimes rejection is a sign to push harder. Every no you hear now makes your future yes louder. Rejection trains your spirit like the gym trains your muscles. You don't grow by lifting something light. You grow by lifting something heavy. Rejection is heavy. That's why it makes you strong. But here's the most incredible part. Eventually, the rejections stop hurting because you realize your value isn't defined by other people's opinions. Your value is defined by your persistence. Rejection teaches you to separate self-worth from outcome. It teaches you that failing at something doesn't make you a failure. It teaches you that pain is temporary, but quitting is permanent. When you develop the courage to face rejection, your world expands, opportunities open, new paths appear, your confidence grows, your fear shrinks. So I tell young people, don't run from rejection. Collect it. The more no's you collect, the closer you get to your eyes. Because remember this, people who fear rejection live small lives. People who embrace rejection build big futures. And one day, when success finally arrives, when the world suddenly recognizes your talent, you will smile, not because of the yes you finally received, but because of the 1,000 no's that failed to break you. One of the greatest misunderstandings about success is the idea that you must do everything alone. People think leadership is about being the smartest person in the room, but real leadership, the kind that builds companies, movements, and legacies, is the opposite. A great leader is not the smartest person in the room. A great leader brings the smartest people into the room. When we started Alibaba, people assumed I was the technical expert. I wasn't. I didn't know how to code. I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't understand technical language. If I tried to be the hero who knew everything, the company would have died before it began. So what did I do? I found people smarter than me, people who understood technology deeply, people who had skills I would never have. And here's the key: I trusted them. Too many people let ego destroy their destiny. They want all the credit. They want to make every decision. They want everyone to follow them, but they forget to lead themselves. A leader's job is not to know everything. A leader's job is to create an environment where brilliant people can do brilliant work. In the US, I've met founders who failed not because their ideas were bad, but because they insisted on controlling everything. They hired employees but never trusted them. They built companies but refused to empower them. They had potential but trapped it in their own ego. The truth is simple. If you think you're the smartest person on your team is too small or too weak. Think about every great company. Steve Jobs had Wozniak. Elon Musk relies on world-class engineers. Jeff Bezos built Amazon with brilliant logistics experts. Walt Disney built his empire with creative minds far more artistic than him. These leaders weren't threatened by people smarter than them. They were inspired by them. Real leaders are not afraid of brilliance. Real leaders are afraid of stagnation. Let me tell you a story. In the early days of Alibaba, one of my team members disagreed with me in a meeting. He challenged my idea openly. My first reaction was frustration. Why question me? I thought, I'm the founder. But then I realized something important. If I only surround myself with people who agree with me, I'm not building a team. I'm building an echo chamber. And an echo chamber is a silent killer of innovation. That moment changed me. I learned that good teams follow instructions, but great teams challenge you, argue with you, and push you to be better. If everyone on your team is thinking exactly like you, then only one person is actually thinking. Let me share another truth. If you hire people smarter than you, you grow. If you hire people weaker than you shrink. The kind of people you choose determines the kind of future you build. A team is not a group of people working together. A team is a group of people who trust each other, challenge each other, and grow together. If you're an entrepreneur, a manager, or even a student, listen carefully. Don't be afraid to admit what you don't know. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to let others shine. Leadership is not about being the star of the team. Leadership is about creating stars. And here's something many people never realize. When your team succeeds, you succeed even more. Their success becomes your reputation. Their growth becomes your impact. Their brilliance becomes your legacy. A great leader doesn't say, follow me because I'm the smartest. A great leader says, follow me because together we can achieve what none of us can do alone. So build your team carefully. Choose people who are better than you at what you're weak at. Choose people who can do what you cannot. Choose people who lift the standard, raise the bar, and challenge the limits. Because in the end, it's not the individual who builds the dream. It's the team behind the individual that brings the dream to life. If you want to understand why most people never achieve greatness, the answer is simple. Most people want the reward today, not the result tomorrow. They want success fast. They want recognition without patience. They want the finish line without running the race. But every truly successful person, every world-class athlete, every legendary entrepreneur, every great leader, they all think long-term. Not days, not weeks, not months, years, sometimes decades. Today, people are addicted to speed. They want a shortcut for everything. How do I get rich quickly? How do I build abs fast? How do I grow a business instantly? How do I learn a skill without practice? Everyone wants speed. But speed without direction is chaos. There is a saying I share with young people. Slow success builds character. Fast success builds ego. And ego never survives the long journey. When we began Alibaba, we didn't make money in the beginning. For years, actually. People laughed at us. Investors ignored us. Even friends asked, how long will you keep chasing this dream? But my team, and I didn't measure success by weeks or months. We measured success by 5-year goals, 10-year goals, 20-year goals. We knew that if we stayed focused, stayed patient, and stayed committed, the long-term reward would be worth the short-term pain. In America, I see the same pattern. The people who break through are not the ones who hustle for 1 week. They are the ones who stay consistent for years. A small YouTuber posts for 5 years straight, suddenly they blow up. An entrepreneur works quietly for a decade, suddenly they appear overnight. An athlete trains in silence, suddenly they come out of nowhere. But nobody sees the long nights. Nobody sees the failures. Nobody sees the 1,000 days of boring, repetitive work. Because long-term success is built in the dark, shortcuts fool you. Long-term thinking frees you. Let me tell you a story about bamboo. Chinese bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants in the world, but only after the first few years. You plant the seed, you water it, you take care of it. For 1 year, nothing happens. 2 years, still nothing. 3 years, nothing. 4 years, nothing. But in the 5th year, suddenly, boom, it explodes upward, growing up to 90 feet in 6 weeks. People say, wow, look how fast it grew. But they don't realize it spent 5 years developing its roots. You are the bamboo. Your dream is the bamboo. Your success is the bamboo. The growth you can't see is the most important growth of all. Most people quit in year 1 or year 2 because they don't see instant results. But the long-term thinker keeps going and eventually rises so high, so fast, that the world calls it a miracle. It's not a miracle. It's patience. It's discipline. It's long-term vision. There is something else. Long-term thinkers understand money follows value, and value takes time to build. If you want quick money, you'll make small money. If you want real impact, you'll need real patience. When you think short-term, you chase opportunities. When you think long-term, you create opportunities. When you think short-term, you compete with others. When you think long-term, others compete with you. When you think short-term, you focus on today's noise. When you think long-term, you build tomorrow's power. So I want you to ask yourself, am I planting seeds for the next 30 days or for the next 30 years? Because your future, your real future, depends on the goals you set, the sacrifices you make, and the discipline you hold today. And remember, the people who win in life are not the ones who run the fastest. They are the ones who run the longest. Habit 1. Learn at least one new thing every day. If I look at people who stay stuck in life, they all share one thing: they stop learning. The moment you stop learning, you stop growing. The moment you stop growing, you stop winning. People say, Jack, how can I be successful? My answer is always the same: become a student of life. Read 10 pages of a book. Watch one valuable lesson. Listen to a podcast. Study a skill. Ask smarter questions. Not because learning is comfortable, but because learning protects you from becoming irrelevant. In the US, the most successful people I meet read constantly. They never assume they know enough. They are hungry for knowledge. And let me tell you the truth. You don't need to read for hours. You just need to read consistently. 10 minutes a day will change your life more than 1 hour once a month. Why? Because learning daily builds confidence daily. Your knowledge becomes your advantage. Your wisdom becomes your weapon. Your education becomes your protection. Habit 2. Do the hardest task first every day. Gives you 2 options: escape your responsibilities or attack them. Most people wake up and immediately run from difficulty. They open their phones. They waste time. They delay the challenges that matter. But successful people build a different habit. They attack the hardest task first. I call it aiding the frog. If you do the hardest thing at the beginning of the day, the rest of the day becomes easy. This habit transforms your mindset. It builds discipline. It builds courage. It builds momentum. Imagine waking up and crushing the most challenging job before the world has even started moving. It gives you confidence that lasts the entire day. You walk differently. You speak differently. You think differently. Because your brain knows, if I can handle that, I can handle anything. Habit 3. Reflect before you sleep at night. Your mind is quiet. Your distractions disappear. Your ego calms down. This is the perfect time to grow. Most people sleep the same way they live, without thinking, without reflection, without direction. But if you want a powerful life, you need a powerful habit. Take 5 minutes to reflect every evening. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What mistake did I make today? What can I do better tomorrow? Did I live according to my goals? These questions guide your growth. They keep you honest with yourself. They keep you evolving. Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Without reflection, you go through life blind. With reflection, you go through life prepared. Imagine doing this for a year. You would become a different person. More aware, more focused, more disciplined, more unstoppable. Because improvement doesn't happen by accident. Improvement happens by intention. These 3 habits may look small, but small habits create big futures. Learn something every day. Do the hardest task first. Reflect every night. These habits sharpen your mind, strengthen your character, shape your destiny. They are the quiet routines behind loud success. My friends, you've heard the principles. You've heard the habits. You've heard the truth. But remember this: knowledge means nothing without courage. Habits mean nothing without consistency. Dreams mean nothing without action. The world will try to slow you down. People will tell you to be realistic. Your fears will whisper that you are not ready. Your failures will try to convince you that you cannot rise again. But you must look at your future and say, I decide my life. I choose my path. I write my stories. Not society, not doubts, not circumstances. You. Every master was once a beginner. Every winner was once invisible. Every champion was once unqualified. Every success story started with a person who made a single decision to try, not tomorrow, not someday, not when I feel ready. Now. Start before you're ready. Outwork everyone. Turn rejection into strength. Build the right team. Think long term. Live the daily habits. And one day, sooner than you think, the world will look at you with surprise. How did you do it? How did you become so strong? How did you rise from nothing? And you will smile because you'll know the truth. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't wait for luck. You didn't wait for the perfect moment. You created it. This is your moment, your chapter, your breakthrough, your story. Make the decision that your future self will thank you for. Go, begin, and never stop.